There's something strange following my husband around. I didn't notice it until I moved into his house, about a year ago. I've been married to my husband Jack for around 6 months, and things have only gotten stranger. At first I thought he was crazy, as much as it hurts me to admit that. He always woke up in the middle of the night, claiming there was something in the room with us. He'd cover up the mirrors in the house, and he'd constantly check behind him whenever he walked anywhere. Whenever I told him that I couldn't see anything, he'd tell me that was a good thing.
"It can't hurt you if you can't see it,"
he'd say. Then I started seeing it, too. It started one night, after we had eaten dinner. We were still sitting at the dinner table, too lazy to get up. Jack had said something offhand about the news, and I looked up from my phone to respond to him. There it was. In the reflection from the window behind him, what looked like the zombie of a woman, flesh falling off and face mangled, standing directly behind him, her partially decomposed hand on his shoulder. I jumped back and let out a small gasp, quickly trying to compose myself.
"What's wrong?"
Jack asked.
You didn't see anything, did you?"
He looked concerned. "It can't hurt you if you can't see it," I remembered. "No," I said. "Didn't see a thing." Then I started seeing it more and more. I never saw it in person, only through reflections. In the mirrors whenever Jack forgot to cover them, in the water when I tried to have a bath, in the shiny metal dishes when I was cleaning them. Maybe it was stress, I told myself. Things hadn't been great with Jack lately, admittedly. He had been wanting to have a kid for a while, and kept begging me to have one with him. I told him I wasn't ready. But he never listened. Maybe I was just seeing things. But then again, why would Jack be seeing it too? Could two people be seeing the same hallucinations? Jack had been getting more and more paranoid, I had noticed. I tried to go down into the basement, which I had actually never been down to look for a screwdriver I needed. Jack had stopped me.
"No,"
he shouted desperately.
Please, stay out of there."
He grabbed my wrist, pulling me back.
I don't want it to hurt you, too. Please, darling, I'm only trying to protect you. Do you trust me?"
He looked me in the eyes, and I realized, even if we fought, even if he was super paranoid, that all he wanted to do was protect me. "Yes. With all my heart," I said.
Good. Now, promise me you'll never go down there. For your own good,"
he said, pulling me into a hug. "I promise." I thought that would be the end of it. I thought that if I patched up my relationship with Jack, that things would go back to normal. They didn't. I still saw it, even more than before. At least once a day, that horrid, rotting corpse would be in reflections, staring at me, staring at Jack, anything. One day, it all came to a head. It was night, and Jack wasn't home. I was getting ready for bed, when I saw it in the mirror. Usually if I looked away and then looked back, it would go away, but this time, it didn't work. "What do you want?" I asked, not expecting a response.
"Avenge me,"
it responded in a raspy, broken voice. I stepped back. "What do you mean?"
"The basement. Go down and find the truth. Set me free,"
it said. "And why should I do that?" The thing laughed.
"I was just like you know, blinded by love. Go into the basement. See who he really is,"
it said, and suddenly disappeared. Cautiously, I stepped down the stairs leading to the basement, armed with a kitchen knife. I found a box in the very corner of it, and I opened it, hoping it was just a box of Jack's childhood possessions, or maybe a collection of baseball cards. I was wrong. Documents, thousands of documents and personal belongings spilled out of the box. Arthur MacDonald. Jack's real name was Arthur MacDonald, a man who was apparently guilty of first-degree murder. And apparently, he was also legally dead. "Jack," I said in disbelief. "You couldn't."
"Oh, he could,"
a voice suddenly said, scaring me half to death. A small hand mirror in the box held the thing. It was staring at me.
"Go ahead. Read the other documents, darling,"
it said, laughing. She was Michelle MacDonald, Arthur's wife who he had brutally murdered.
"I really thought he loved me, you know,"
Michelle said sadly.
"But all he wanted was a child. Another heir to his family name. I was a fool."
"You weren't a fool," I said. "You were in love. And so was I."
"We really are alike, darling,"
Michelle said.
"I tell you what, so long as Arthur keeps this con up, I'm doomed to stay on Earth forever. Set me free."
I watched as a hand reached through the mirror, offering me a silver blade.
Do it,
she said. Oh, I will, I answered, taking the knife. But I can't do it alone. I waited about a week to confront him, waiting for the perfect time. Michelle and I had a plan. Arthur and I were getting ready for bed when Michelle appeared in my phone reflection and nodded. It was time. I discreetly uncovered the mirror as Arthur got into bed.
What should we do for dinner tomorrow, darling?
He asked. Oh, I don't know, I answered. Arthur. He looked up.
Babe, what are you talking about?
I think you know. Just like you know about Michelle. He laughed uncomfortably.
How do you know about Michelle?
I'm the one asking the fucking questions here. Why did you kill her? He stared at me with cold eyes.
All I wanted was a son, you know? And she couldn't give me one. Infertility, you know? 1 in 5 women, crazy, right? So I thought, if she couldn't have kids, who would ever want her? Don't you see? I was doing her a favor. And afterwards, all I had to do was start going by my middle name, and marry another woman. I mean, what were the odds I'd marry 2 barren ladies, you know? One of you had to have a childbearing body. And now that you know, we can start a family together. Wouldn't that be nice?
He said. No, I said, beckoning to Michelle. It wouldn't. I watched Arthur's eyes fill with fear as Michelle stepped out of the mirror, filling the room with the foul smell of rot. She limped towards Arthur as I sneakily pulled the silver blade out from my bra, where I hid it. Arthur stood protectively in front of me.
Don't worry, darling. She won't hurt you.
I laughed. Oh, Arthur. Silly, I said. Without a second thought, I plunged the blade directly into his back. As he crumbled to the ground in pain, I stood beside Michelle triumphantly. I know she won't hurt me. My coworkers hear something calling from the sea. It is killing them. These personnel entries recorded by redacted are intended for research purposes only. Entries unrelated to the event have been removed. All materials found here are the sole property of Eventide Petroleum and are not authorized for reproduction. If any unauthorized person find themselves in possession of these documents, please contact the corporate office for a financial reward. August 10, 2021. The jumpers always looked so happy as they marched to their death. You could see their faces clearly from the dozens of security cameras on the deck. Satisfied smiles covered their faces as they bounded carelessly toward the edge of the platform. We've installed a higher railing system around the edges, but it only made them work harder to get over the top. Before they jump, their arms extend out as though they expect something to come from the sky and scoop them up like a mother would pick up a small child. After 1 or 2 minutes of holding their crucifixion-like pose, they fall forward and sail through the air until they make an impact with the churning water below. Suicides on oil rigs aren't common, but they aren't unheard of either. The rate for oil extraction workers is nearly twice the percentage of males in the general population. At least that's what I read when I started researching this job. From what I've seen, it is drastically higher here. During my first month on the rig, I watched 2 men plummet to their death from the control room. Braxton and Garvin were their names. Happy guys as far as I could tell. Wife, kids, and nice houses to get back to after their rotations. Best job in the world, Braxton had told me the day we met. He pointed a finger out toward the endless blue waves that spread as far as we could see. No better view for that matter. It's almost like the ocean sings to you every night. Like it never wants you to leave. He never did leave. 20 days after we met, Earl Braxton and Jimmy Garvin leapt over the side of the rig during the night shift. Their bodies were never recovered. August 28, 2021. We've lost 3 more men since I last had a chance to write. Derek Overton had only been on the rig for 6 days. Young guy, couldn't have been more than 22. It was his first offshore job and he had seemed so excited. He was a hard worker too. You ever hear anything weird when you're working out on the platform? He asked me one day. Sounds like there is someone out in a boat singing. No, I replied. I work down in control and keep an eye on the vital systems. Don't get outside as much as I should. I'm probably just hearing things. Tried to ask a few of the other workers up top, but I guess they're too busy to talk. A few of them told me I should wear earplugs, but I don't know. The sound of the waves is soothing. The singing noise too. I kind of enjoy it. That was 2 days before he jumped. Our night shift crew wasn't fast enough to stop him. They never are. Doyle Hargrove was an old-timer. He'd worked on eventide rigs for over 30 years. According to the duty roster, he was due to rotate home next week. His psychological evaluation was top-notch. No history of mental illness. All of his crew said nothing seemed out of place. If anything, he seemed happier than he had in months. Just the same, Doyle threw himself over the side of the rig during the night shift. The third death wasn't a jumper. One of the motor hands, Alvy Spencer, was found standing near the edge of the platform, arms outstretched, looking toward the sky. Two roughnecks on the night shift saw him and managed to drag him back from the edge before he scaled the railing to fall into the drink. Alvy fought them tooth and nail as they pulled him toward the barracks. A few other men heard the commotion and came running to aid in the rescue. The motor hand punched and kicked everyone around him and scrambled to find a grip on the rig floor as they pulled him toward the bulkhead. The whole time he was just screaming the same thing over and over. "Let me go. It's so beautiful. Just let me go." Unsure of what to do, the rig manager had them secure Alvy in an empty storage room while he radioed the mainland crew. They informed us they would send a helicopter to retrieve Alvy and take him in for a mental health evaluation. We were all relieved to have finally saved one, but the celebration came too early. When we opened the storage room, Alvy Spencer swung from his belt secured to a pipe. Poor bastard. Thought we'd managed to save one. September 20th, 2021. Shit just keeps getting more and more strange around here. There have been no more jumpers, which is great, but corporate has made some odd changes. Our old rig manager was replaced with some suit from corporate. He doesn't seem to have much experience in the field. Has a strange way about him. Made a lot of changes, too. Everyone who works outdoors on the rig has to wear earplugs during their entire shift. No exceptions. It wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it's difficult to call someone over the loudspeakers with a wad of foam in their ears. Men have to work in two-man teams now, regardless of their position. If one goes to the bathroom, the other goes with them. They eat together. Shower together. The only time you are away from them is when you go to bed. You even have to fill out a daily observation report about your partner. The questions are weird. You figure it would be a productivity thing, but it isn't like that at all. Has your partner exhibited any odd behavior? Does your partner stare off into the distance frequently? Does your partner seem to hum or sing as they work? Have you noticed your partner spending too much time near the edge of the platform? There are also tons of signs posted everywhere on the rig saying we should report any strange thoughts or compulsions to our supervisor. No telling what kind of weird stuff those poor bastards are hearing from the crew. It's almost an open invitation for bad jokes. I'm not sure what the hell is going on out here, but it may be time for a job change. My rotation is up on November 1st. It can't get here soon enough. October 17th, 2021. Working up on the deck has been a nice change of pace. We've been short on roughnecks lately, and I accepted a pay bump to help out with grunt work. Steve, my partner, doesn't follow me around too much, which has been nice. We're both old-timers, so it wasn't too hard to work out an agreement to skirt a few of the new corporate rules. Those damn earplugs annoyed me too much, so mostly I just leave them out. None of the young bucks on the crew say anything about it. Most of them have started keeping theirs out too. Not hard to manage. The suits from corporate stay inside in the air conditioning. Gives us a free run of the place. I'm more relaxed than I've been in months. Braxton was right. The ocean does sing to you. Sometimes I close my eyes and it almost sounds like a woman. I can almost see her, down below the rig, floating between the white caps. She's beautiful. It's like she's singing just for me. October 21st, 2021. Steve jumped from the platform yesterday. We were doing a security check on the railing system around the edge of the platform. They had been hastily installed as the incidents increased and the material wasn't holding up well against the salty sea spray. Bad news for the maintenance crew. "Hey," Steve said to me as I was examining the bolts fastening the railing to the deck. I looked toward him and saw him pointing into the ocean. "Look out there. Looks like a damn lady swimming in the water. It's 15 miles to shore and there isn't a boat in sight, Steve. Your eyes are playing tricks on you." "No," he stated. "Take a look for yourself. She's waving at us. I think I can hear her, singing." I stood up and looked in the direction he pointed. At first, I couldn't see anything. Just the rolling blue waves. Then I saw her. Pale skin, dark hair, slender frame. She was bobbing up and down in the water. A long, thin arm waved above her head. She was too far away to make out any details of her face, but I couldn't help but think she would be the most beautiful woman I'd seen if I were a bit closer. A strange thought to have when you see a woman floating miles from the shore, but it haunted my mind. "We've got to get someone out to there to help," Steve said. "Run up to the office and tell the rig manager we need to get out there to her." I ran as quickly as I could to the office and threw the door open like a bull in a china shop. It started the men inside. Gasping for air, I told them there was a woman in the water and told them to follow me. We charged out of the office in the direction of Steve. By the time we returned, Steve was standing on top of the railing, arms outstretched. We shouted his name and ran toward him, but he never turned his head or acknowledged us. Just as we reached the bottom of the railing and began to climb up to retrieve him, he tilted over the edge and began to sail down. My eyes were wrenched in horror. As Steve passed in front of my face, I caught a glimpse of his serene smile. October 30th, 2021. The rescue crew never found Steve or the woman we saw in the water. I feel like I'm going mad. I'm scared. I hate it here. The music still fills my ears as I sit here on my bunk. Layers of steel walls and bulkheads can't drown it out. It's maddening but oddly beautiful. I want it to stop, but I also don't. It would probably sound so much better if I could get a bit closer to it. I wonder if the woman Steve and I saw is the one singing. I wonder if she is as beautiful as I think she is. Maybe she's still down there. She just needs help. I should help her. I'm going to see if I can spot her. I'll just stand by the rail for a little while. Just for a minute. Santa Claus is coming to town. Windows boarded. Doors padlocked. Lights snuffed out. Chimney barricaded. With heart pounding, I press myself between my parents' legs, backs against the living room wall. Straining to hear for any sound beyond the house, but so far it appeared as nothing was stirring, not even a mouse. From across the room, I can see there are gaps in the wood giving an obscured look at the two closest houses across the street. Like ours, their house is pitch black, but I know that the Johnsons and the Yangs are cowering in their homes just like we are. The whole street is. It feels like hours have passed, but soon I hear the faint sound of sleigh bells and suddenly my shoulders are gripped tight by my mom and dad. He's come. All of a sudden it's harder to breathe. I suck the air up but it doesn't feel like enough and my breathing is so loud. Is it normally that loud? Is he going to hear me? My mom crouches in front of me, wipes away tears I didn't realize had fallen and cradles me in her arms. She tells me I have to remain quiet. That I have to be good. I have heard this from her countless times. The bells grow louder but remain slow. Each beat painfully drawn out as it passes overhead then circles back around. It's going to stop at our street tonight. I can't help it. A squeak of a cry escapes my mouth before my dad covers it tightly with his hand. I watch as my mother silently prays for our house not to be chosen, her lips moving frantically and eyes shut painfully tight. A thud sounds as a heavy object touches down on a roof. But it's not ours. Dad breathes out a hard sigh of relief, but he's still trembling. The three of us creep towards the window and peer out through the few inches gap between the two boards. I can't see the sleigh or the reindeers, but I know it must be there. We can't see much at all at first. As my eyes adjust, I can finally make out some obscure shapes. A white shadow figure on the roof of the Johnsons' house, its heavy steps shaking fresh snow off the tiles as it walks. Then, with all its force, it slams itself into the chimney. Brick pieces exploding into the air as he bellows in a voice that sounds like a painfully slow, warped record. Hang your stockings and say your prayers, 'cause Santa Claus comes tonight. I have never witnessed an attack with my own eyes before, just the videos people have posted online. My parents don't know about those. They don't know that I have seen what is about to happen before, but even so it hasn't prepared me for the real thing. A warmth runs down my legs as my terror escapes in physical form, but my wide eyes stay glued to the window. The three of us are paralyzed, forced to watch what is about to happen. He knows he can't get down the chimney, so he's smashing it to pieces in frustration. The Johnsons blocked their chimney too, but it will only be a delay for the inevitable. He will get inside. He gets on all fours and crawls over the edge of the roof and down the side of the house, peering into each of the windows as he chuckles his trademark ho, 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 searching for the room that the family are hiding inside. He must have found what he was looking for, as once he gets to one of the bedroom windows he begins to relentlessly pound his fists into the brick while staring into the window. All the while he jovially sings "Let It Snow." With each punch the hole in the wall gets larger and larger until he can tear his way inside the house. We can just about hear the guttural screams of the family now that there is a large hole in their house. Wave after wave of screaming. It pierces the silent night. We see nothing for a long time, and eventually it falls quiet once more. Minutes pass until a faint glowing can be seen in the otherwise dark house, moving from one window to another. Back to the hole. Out he comes with the two children, Jack and Harry, no more than 5 years old, wrapped up in Christmas lights and dangling by their feet. Their backs are bent back painfully and stockings stuffed into their mouths to keep their screams in. He has hold of them as he climbs back out and up to the roof again. He's covered in blood, but most noticeably his mouth has the worst of it. His whole face is covered in red gore, which only showcases the whites of his wide, unblinking eyes as he looks out over the neighborhood. He knows everyone is watching. Just like we know he is always watching. He throws them into his sleigh. Jack and Harry weren't good this year. And they are never seen again.